Sam Watson had the better start of the pair, but Riza is really giving this one a go. It's going to be on the bottom. This one it is. And it's Sam Watson with another world record.
He is the American world record holder in the 2024 Paris Olympics. He won bronze. And the crazy thing is, all this stuff has happened before or at the age of 19.
It was more of a feeling of relief than a feeling of joy when I did eventually win that event.
How much do you get paid for a medal in the Olympics?
The US, I think, gives like 37 for gold, like 22 for silver, and like 15 for bronze. So I got $15,000. It was actually tax-free. I was making definitely below minimum wage for all the training I'd put in.
Do Olympians like go out at all?
I don't know if I should say this publicly, but whatever.
Sam Watson, let me give you a quick introduction of who this man is. First thing I want to say is he is the American world record holder for speed climbing. And what does that make him? It makes him one of the fastest climbers in American history. In the 2024 Paris Olympics, he won bronze medal. And the crazy thing is, all this stuff has happened before or at the age of 19. A lot of respect, Sam. Thank you so much for coming on Gross Potential. We're going to dive into a lot of cool things, but it's a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely.
So the first question I have, and I give this to every single guest, is, and it's a fun one. What TV, book, or movie character do you think best resembles you, and why?
TV, book, or movie character best resembles me? I get Lisa Al Gob all the time. Timothy Chalamet.
I could see that 100%.
That's kind of my joke answer. TV. I don't really know. I don't read a lot of like fiction or anything, but I mean, honestly, that's not a bad answer.
So is it because of looks, or is it because of something? Like, I've seen the movie.
Surely just because of looks. Yeah.
You do look very similar.
Yeah. I get that consistently, like kind of all the time.
Yeah.
As my like celebrity comparison. So my goal is at the next Olympics in LA to get a photo with him.
Oh, that'd be lit. And a follow for that. So if you don't know that one, do you have a theme song? Is there a certain song or a certain artist that you just embody it and it fires you up? And then why?
So certain song or certain artist. All right. I do have an answer to this one. So before I usually do make like playlists and stuff. I'm pretty into music with regards to before competitions and stuff like that. Before I broke the world record for the first time, I had Ludwig Göransson's "Can You Hear the Music?" the Oppenheimer theme song playing. And then the next time I did, it was Nas's "The World Is Yours." So those are my two kind of bigger moments, like to music, where I remember the song being a big part of it. So definitely those.
What was so special about those two songs? Like, for example, I got this question asked to me, and it was a great question. And I'm like, I don't know a song, but an artist is like Tate McRae. And the reason why Tate McRae, it's like, first of all, I love Tate McRae, but like all her music, it's like, I'm the underdog, like you screwed me over, I'm gonna have the last laugh. And I feel that embodied. It's like, is it the same thing with those songs for you?
A little bit, but also like just the process of training and having a goal like that, and just the constant reminders you have to give yourself to get to that point. Another one I have is Mac Miller's "It Just Doesn't Matter."
Okay.
So it was off of his like unreleased album called Faces that was eventually released posthumously. And one of the songs, it samples like this 1972 movie called Meatballs, in which there's like two camps, like two summer camps. One is like for the rich kids, and one is like for the kind of regular people. And at the end of the summer, they get together and have like kind of an Olympic style game, right? And so one of the speeches that was sampled in the song was the coaches from the middle class regular side going that everyone has their own personal masseuse. You know, they have the best training methods, they have everything, but it just doesn't matter, right? And so that was one of my kind of hype ups, like thinking like a lot of stuff goes wrong consistently when you're an athlete, and but you can just say it just doesn't matter, and it kind of goes into a chant of it just doesn't matter. So I really love that one, and particularly before I qualified, it's somewhere back. I haven't fully set up my background. I just moved in, but my coach actually got me a vinyl of that album when I qualified for the Olympics.
Oh, that's fire. And so before we get into like the Olympic Games, I'm just trying to figure out, like, I'm pretty sure you started this at 10 years old, right? Like you started this sport at 10?
I was 5.
You were 5. Okay, so it was 5 years old. Even younger. So you started at 5. And it's such a niche sport. Like you're the only person I know that actually does this. So how do you get into climbing?
So I got into climbing because I, as a little child, we're talking like 2 or 3 years old, would try to climb up everything I possibly could. So like by 3 or 4 years old, I was already on the roof at my parents' house. And they were just like, "Get down from there! Don't do that! Be safe!" And I mean, to credit them, I credit them massively. They really supported that. They're like, "Okay, we're gonna take you climbing, right? We're gonna do that." So the earliest you could possibly go to the climbing gym was 5 years old. Like you couldn't be it. So at my 5th birthday party, I literally went to the climbing gym, and I've loved it pretty much ever since.
Wow.
I started taking it seriously. I was maybe like 8 or 9. I joined a competitive team, and started doing that. And then so there's 3 disciplines of climbing: then bouldering, lead, and speed. At least in the competitive sense. Bouldering is just you're about maybe 10, 15 feet up, and you're falling onto a mat. Lead, you're climbing a 15 meter, maybe 20 meter total with an incline wall, and you clip as long as you go, and you're on a rope. And then speed is what I do. It's 15 meters. The wall is the same every time, and your goal is to do it as fast as possible.
Right.
And so I did all 3 of those until I was about 13 years old when COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I was just in the gym. They had like these half occupancy gyms, and I would go climb there. It'd be like you get a time slot. It'd be like 11. It would be like 11 p.m.
Yeah.
And I would just speed climb, and I started really enjoying it because since the wall is the same every time, I could just improve my time. Versus previously, that same validation would come through competition with others, and there were no competitions. So I really just started. I fell in love with it then and there.
Interesting. So you fell in love with just trying to beat yourself every time.
Yeah, so definitely still in love with that process for sure.
So also just with the walls, like logistically, the rocks are placed exactly the same on every single course you go to. Like it never changes.
Yes,
Oh wow.
yes, and then it's homologated, so that's why there's a world record. It's the same every time.
So when you start taking it seriously, I would you say at the age 8 or 9, and you start actually taking this seriously, like how does your life change? Are you 8 years old, 9 years old saying, I want to go to the Olympics? Or is it like, I just want to be the best person on my competitive team and just win as much as possible?
So I think as far as like I'm always a competitive person.
Yeah.
And I had a good the team I was on. I had a lot of good influences and a lot of good friends that I loved to compete with, and that made it a lot more fun. So when I was a little kid, that was for sure the case. As far as the Olympics as a goal, in November of 2020, they announced that speed climbing would be its own individual event at the Olympics, and that was kind of the point where I said, "Okay, I want to do this."
Okay.
And honestly, the original goal was I don't want to make Paris, I want to make LA. Just because I knew I was going to be, a very uphill battle trying to qualify at 17 or 18 years old.
Right.
But I was like, okay, at 2028, I'll be 22 years old, and I want to qualify for the LA Olympics and do that. So you can kind of just put out a vague roadmap. I think they announced how you would qualify in like mid 2022,
Okay.
and I kind of made a plan from there.
All right. So what does training look like the minute when you actually identify, okay, like Olympics isn't my goal? How does your life change after that?
I think so. One of the biggest things I said was, okay, I was, I believe, 14, about to turn 15 at the time in November of 2020. And I was like, okay, so I have 4 years to do it, right? That's, you break it down, 8, like half of a year, semester type things going through it. And so, okay, how do I train here? How do I get better? What are my goals? What are my road marks? What do I want to do? And so generally, in order to qualify for the Olympics in any sport, you have to compete at the highest level in whatever that looks like in that sport. So for climbing, we have what's called the World Cup circuit, where there's 6 or 7 events every year all around the world. And typically the highest points of that, it goes to,
Yeah.
it's like Formula One. It's like you aim for a championship of that series. So I was like, okay, so in order to do that, I need to qualify for the US national climbing team. And in order to do that, I need to get a spot to go to the Open Nationals to do that, right? But I still hadn't even competed in youth because it was 2020 and there was no competitions at all, right? So I had set the goal of making the Olympics, and I had literally never competed at a high level since I guess like 2019, summer of it.
Wow.
So I was like, all right, cool. So my first real competition was in summer of 2021, and it was youth nationals. And from there, I qualified to go to the youth world championship, and it was my first international competition. It was in Voronezh, Russia. It was like 4 hours south of Moscow. I got second at the youth world championships, and I actually had to write a letter to the committee at the climbing federation to say, would you let me compete in open nationals, because I wasn't even old enough, because I was 15, you had to be 16. And I said, if you let me compete in open nationals, I could potentially qualify for um, the team trial event, which would qualify you for the national team. It was a lot of steps. So they eventually said, why not? Right at that point, you're like, okay, you've had success in youth, why not? They eventually made it a rule, like a merit-based rule, saying if you got top 4 at youth nationals, you would qualify for open nationals regardless of age. Um, and so from there, I really had the motivation because I think I can make the team. I went to open nationals. I believe I got 4th, and I was like, all right, they take, I think, maybe 6 spots that year to the World Cup circuit, and I was like, all right, I think I can make the team. So that was the kind of point where I kind of really got into lifestyle stuff, like really prioritizing my health, and prioritizing every aspect of your life to be optimized. And that was honestly one of the biggest life changers, is like starting to care about that and be a healthier person, and prevents injuries really well,
Yeah.
and doing all that. So I was really putting a lot of effort into that. And so I think that really elevated my game going into the team trial event, which is in March of 2022. So I won that event. And I was, like, barely 16 years old. I won that event. Then I made the team, so I was on the national team in 2022. So I basically just told myself that season, I wanna get better every event. Like, I wanna get better. So I pretty much did that. I had my first World Cup I went to, I got 16th. My next one, I got 8th. I think the next one, I got 7th. Then the next one, I think I got 16th again. I think I went back a little bit. And then I had an absolutely horrible event. The event after that, I got, like, 50th. And then after that, 'cause I was like, "Man, all right, this sucks. I hate losing." Um, Really reevaluated my process of competing, and I think, again, like, I really have done a very good job at learning from my mistakes, as something that separates me from other people. So I did that, and then I won my next event. I was the youngest person to win an adult World Cup. I was, like, 16 years old in 200 something days. So I won that event. I placed 5th overall that year in the series, and that's also when they announced the Olympic qualification, which basically there'd be 3 opportunities to qualify. One was the World Championships in Bern, Switzerland. It was August of 23, so about exactly a year before the Olympics. Then the next one would be each continental championship. So there's an Asian championship, a European championship, Pan American championship, an African championship, and an Oceanic championship. So I basically decided, all right, I want to qualify at the World Championships in Bern. I think I'll be good enough to the point in which I can get the World Championship title. The top 2 from that event, the World Champion, Vice World Champion, go on and get Olympic tickets. So I was like, okay, that's my goal. Um, like, really, again, improving on that process of breaking it down and doing everything I can, of taking training seriously and dedicating your life more to it. I switched from in person to online high school to commit more to this goal.
Mm.
And I had a pretty good 2023 season. I think I was consistently elevated to one of the best on the circuit. I think I placed 3rd that year in the World Cup series, so bit of an improvement. Was very close to the world record at the time, like only a tiny bit off of the top athletes. So definitely some improvement, but I got to the World Championship event in Bern, and I was ready. I was like, I can do this. I've prepared so much. I was very proud of myself for that, and I just had a terrible event. Like, I think the nerves just got to me, and it was, I think, the worst I've ever placed on a competition.
Wow.
Um, Basically, like, in speed climbing, you have 2 qualifier laps, and if you I basically DNF'd. If there's, like, a racing motorsport equivalent like Formula 1, I basically DNF'd. So I got, like, 70th in that event. And I mean, again, like, taking that biggest defeat is just like, it's obviously, like, heartbreaking. Like, it's next level of dealing with, like, I'm almost like, it's grief, is the best emotion to describe it. But I basically told myself, I was like, okay, I have 70 days until the Pan American Championship qualifier, and my next opportunity to qualify for the Olympics. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna step up my game one time again. Like I'm gonna figure out how to properly strength train and to properly like build out a program of the maximal optimal recovery and all that. Like typically people either undertrain or overtrain, and like
Yeah.
figuring out the balance is very, very difficult. Like it's like so difficult to know your body and to get past the ego of wanting to train more or less. And it's just like I'm gonna commit to this idea. I'm gonna really like I started working with my climbing and my S&C coach way more directly. I think previously I was pretty independent as far as like what I wanted to do goes. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna embrace this coaching. I'm going to, learn from people smarter than me. I'm gonna do that. And I think that really taught me, like, that was easily the hardest I've ever worked in my life. It was like the 70 days between those 2 events. Like, I think I didn't even significantly improve. Like, I guess I kinda did, but, like, just the level of focus is just something that really, like, helped me in just life. So I think the World Championship was in August, the Pan American Games was in September, or it was in October, I think. It was in October. And got to the Pan American Games. It was by far the most stressful event I've ever been to. Like with the dynamic of it, like for Americans, there's only 2 qualification spots. And like being in the Olympics versus not being in the Olympics for such a small sport is such a big deal. And so like these guys have been your friends for years, right? You've known them, you've traveled around the world with them, but at the end of the day, like it was only the winner that would get a ticket. And it just created an insane dynamic with a lot of people of like, I've called you guys friends. Like you guys are my friends, but I'm here. Like again, like I had the mentality of like this is the hardest I've ever worked. Right. I think I've outworked
So
everyone in this field.
what does that dynamic look like though? Is it like typically someone that you sit down and get dinner with, like that conversation, there's just a lot of tension now and it's like, okay, like I'm competing against you. Are you not helping each other out and giving as much of like what does that look like?
So I mean, from there's a bit of a team dynamic among the US athletes just because I mean we share a lot of the staff. We're typically at the gym together. A lot of
Right.
things like that. Like we know each other very well, right? And we're having US team dinners orchestrated where we're hanging out and we're friends. Um, but previously, like for I mean, and again, for these World Cup circuit events, like you can do bad at one, and it's not really gonna like affect your life very negatively, right? It's like obviously, like I hate losing. Like if I do bad at one, it's like oh man, that sucks. But like the gravity that would mean qualifying for the Olympics, especially like for the Pan Americans, where there was like a lot of the American athletes were sort of the favorites
Hmm.
over the South American athletes or anyone else, like in Canada or so. It's just like there was some favorites from America, right? And it was hard. Like, we know each other very well, and everyone has their own like, I mean, at the time, like, also everyone you know in your life is in your ear saying, "I really hope you qualify for the Olympics. That'd be so cool to know an Olympian," or,
Right.
like, it's such a massive part of it, like, and it's an insane stressor. And I just, like I had good coping mechanisms with the way I wanted to do it. Like, I tried to get away from the village and get away from a lot of stuff a lot of times. But yeah, I mean, it was just subjectively very stressful. And it kind of it was a more of a feeling of relief than a feeling of joy when I did eventually win that event.
Okay.
Just because like it's again so much stress, and I think at that point it was a very valuable lesson I learned is like I need to have a better relationship with stress because the stress did allow me to work the hardest I've ever worked in my life, but it like almost sucked the joy out of doing what I like to do. So
Yeah.
that was an important lesson I learned. But that was the end of 23. That was how I qualified for the Olympics. Just
So
chronologically.
so so you qualify. And then let's just fast forward to the Olympic Games. So, like, a lot of people watch the Olympic Games and we see what goes on TV, but we have no idea what actually goes on behind the scenes. So, like, you get there day 1. What does that process look like?
So we flew in to Paris. We were greeted. So a lot of the US team is based in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yeah.
There's a direct flight, so we just took that. Um, we flew in. We got met by some people. They were very nice. Got escorted to the village. A lot of logistics, a lot of stuff. Everyone packed like 3 bags because everyone wants all their stuff. Because we were also gone for like 17 days total in Europe.
Right.
So it's a long trip. So big amount of logistics. Take us to this village. Um, We check in. There's a lot of support staff, and I really do credit the U.S. Olympic Committee and Team USA for supporting us very, very well during that event. So we meet a lot of people. They take us to these village, very bare bones, the village rooms. Maybe it was, I think, 3 bedrooms for 6 people, and the beds were like really hard and not good.
Wait,
Um,
you have to sleep in the same room as somebody else?
yeah,
Like, you
yeah.
have to
So
share a double. In Olympic
yeah,
you have to share a double in the Olympics?
yeah. Like the logistics of having like 10,000 athletes in one like little city is actually so difficult, so that you pretty
Yeah.
much have to. So, but yeah, I was with my teammate. Um, there was also, so it was 6 of us in this like it was like a college suite basically with no kitchen. But we didn't really need it because there's dining hall. But like it was basically a college suite. Um, and then there was the 2 male speed climbers, the 2 male bouldering and lead climbers, and then 2 badminton players, which were they were homies. Um, so I mean, it's just a very bare bones kind of village setup, and they actually brought in these air conditioners because there's no air conditioning in Europe typically. But USA is like, hell no, we're getting our own portable ACs for these people.
Yeah.
Um, but we didn't have humidifiers, so these ACs were running all the time, and I actually got like a bloody nose just because like the AC was running constantly there, which
Holy
was kind of a. I was like, "Am I sick?" Because I was like sniffling, right? And I was like, "Oh, my nose is bleeding really badly." And I was like, "Why is this?" And my friend was like, "Oh, it's because the AC is right next to you and you don't have a humidifier." It's like, I didn't know that.
damn.
Central AC is definitely a gift.
So, okay, so first of all, that's insane that they 'cause I had a double my freshman year at college, and, like, bro, imagine if you had your roommate was, like, a big snorer, and it's, like, it's the night before your event, and you're like, "I can't freaking
So
fall
I have
asleep."
okay, I do have the system. I have earplugs, a sleep mask, and, like, everything, right, for that. Like, I'm actually very comfortable in sleeping in not amazing setups just because you travel so much, it's
Yeah,
whatever. But, like, if you weren't used to that, like, if you didn't go in with mentality of, like, "I can do anything sleep-wise," it was loud. Like, there were people coming in at 11 p.m., like, celebrating, "Yeah, we just won." They're, like, whole
right.
team events. I'm like, "Dude, I'm trying to sleep. I'm competing tomorrow."
That's hilarious. What about this? And it's a unique question, but just, like, what's something and it could be Olympic Village, or it could just be about the Olympics. What's one thing that the average person would just be shocked to hear, that they've never heard about that you know?
I have a couple things. One is a little bit more serious than the other, but, like, at the Olympics, you'd be shocked. There are so many tall people. Like, I'm
Mm,
5'11", right? I am not short, right? I am average height in America, at least, right? I am not used to walking the street and being like seeing like giants, right? But at the Olympics, like, I mean, I guess just in sport, like if you're taller, that's an advantage for so many things. There's
yeah.
like 6'7" people, like 6'9", like massive people. Like I'm like, dude, you're so tall. Like I feel tiny right now. Like I
Yeah,
it just as a normal sized human being, I'm like, dude, this is not like even just like width wise, like you see some massive dudes, and it's
I
just
bet.
like, dude, there's so many anomalies of human nature just at this event, which makes sense. But you just like interacting with a group of people, like it's such a unique set. Another thing is just like how many people from different walks of life and countries are just
Mm,
there. Like I was sitting at the dining hall, talking to one of my coaches, and I was just like, "Dude, there's a guy from Iraq over there. What if I just like took a selfie with him?" He's like, "Go, good dude, go for it." So I started a series, I where I was like, "I'm gonna take a selfie with someone from every country at the
yeah.
Olympics." I think there was 219 total delegations. I think I got like 140, something like that. Um,
You took a selfie with
and
140 different people.
Yeah.
And
I
oh,
posted 2 episodes on Instagram, but I kind of, after a point, was like, I don't wanna violate these people's privacy by posting this on the internet
yeah.
because I got a selfie with a North Korean, and I was like, I don't think I don't think his country would be very happy of him publicly associating with this stupid American,
That's hilarious. Okay,
but
so we got
it's the
height.
hardest photo I have for sure. It's insane.
I That's gotta be your screensaver.
Uh,
That's gotta be your screensaver. Anyway, okay, so we got height. We got a bunch of different people. Are there any more, or would you say those are the 2 biggest?
Um, I really did not like the food at the Paris 2024 games. Like, I think they
Really?
did like a kind of mediocre job. Like all the all the food was like very bland because I think like from an allergy perspective, like if you add a bunch of stuff to it, but like you kind of had to figure out a way to do it. Is like they had these seasoning stations, so you'd go get your meal and then you have to like season it yourself. And once you figured out how to do that, it was actually pretty bad. But the muffins were unreasonably good. I don't know if you saw that, but like
Yeah.
they had these muffins that were like so insanely good, at least compared to the rest of the food. Like it was absurd how good they were.
It's a chocolate muffin, right? And it
Chocolate
went viral.
muffins, yeah, yeah.
And did they run out of these things, or were they always
No, they had
stocked up?
plenty. They had plenty.
Nice.
I think they had one dude in the back that was the muffin man that was baking them all. Like he was carrying the dining. That
All right, go. All right. So one thing I'm curious about is when race day actually comes, what does that look like? Like, walk me through from whenever you wake up to after it's over.
so I mean, it's actually a funny story. So I had 2 days I competed at the Olympics, my qualifier and then my finals. Um, at that point, I had the world record. I was pretty like there was really two other athletes that I felt like were the same tier as myself. Because there was an Olympic qualifier series that I didn't mention. That was the other way to qualify for the Olympics. And if you didn't win your championship or the world championships, you go to the qualifier series. And the Olympic qualifier series was definitely the highest level of competition up to that point.
Right.
Um, and I honestly kind of wish I had that experience of competing against those people, but I had already qualified. So I ended up, I was like, I had the world record. It was 4:79, and then the fastest time otherwise was 4:83. And I was like, I definitely think like it'll be broken. Like there'll be some options of like, I think I can break it for sure, but I think 4:79 will not be the world record at the end of the Olympics for sure. So I walk out for my first qualifier lap. I think I ran 4:91, which is like a pretty decent one. I'll definitely make finals with that. And so but I noticed like I speak a little bit of French and I could hear this. They were like, is like Le Record du Monde, right? You have the record, the world record, right? Before I said before I walked up for my first lap, but not my second. And I was like, all right, I think my world record is broken.
Oh, really?
And that was my second lap. And I was like, because I didn't have I didn't want to pull up the results. But I had a very fast second qualifier lap, but I messed up a certain move, and I just had my first qualifier lap qualify me to what's called the elimination heat. So there was 14 athletes, and then they were seated into pairs of 7. So you would race like one would race 14, and then you'd have the 7 winners plus the fastest loser advance to the finals. So I had a decent time, I think. So my world record was not broken, but it was tied. So
Yeah.
Vidric Leonardo, who eventually won gold, he ran 4:79, which tied the world record. Um, and so I went up, and then my next lap, which was my qualification elimination round, I was like, okay, I'm ready. I can do this. I really felt super fast. My training sessions leading up to the Olympics was not very good at all. Like I think my that's one of my biggest regrets is like I didn't have good training. The US team decided to go to Barcelona to get away from everything, and like the training facilities there were not very good. They were, I mean, they were good, but they were not like Olympic standards level perfect that I would want, where I can consistently be my fastest and be confident. Like adding that, like imagine like being on a better versus worse track. Like you can be faster if the conditions are better, but
Right.
you just kind of have to prove that to yourself. And so I was like, all right, I think I have this. Like, I can do it. And so I was actually racing my US teammate and one of my best friends, which was it was kind of a very mixed bag of emotions, just because like the Olympics is such a big deal. But I got it there, and then I broke the world record again. I went 4:75.
Mm.
And it was honestly one of the coolest moments of my career, just because like that venue with all the people in there, like climbing tickets were so hard to get because climbing is a pretty niche like cult following that like
Yep.
there's enough people that want to watch it, and they were very difficult to get. So everyone that got a ticket was like really into it. And so the crowd just went crazy because they all like knew like what like the implications of like, oh, his world record was just tied, and then he breaks it again, and takes it back and gets the first seed going into finals. So I do that, and that was honestly really, really cool. Probably one of my best moments of my career to that point. And so I qualified for the finals. And that was my qualification day. Did a whole little media walkthrough, like it got a lot of attention of like, oh my God, are you gonna do this? How does this feel going into it? But I still like in other sports I would have just won, right? You just get a gold medal for doing that, but I had to do another round. Um, so go back. We have one rest day in between. I hung out a bit. I played like the entire game of Plants vs Zombies, because it's it's not stressful at all. I was like completely away from everything. Wasn't even like receiving texts. Literally
Okay.
playing Plants vs Zombies. I did a little workout and I was just kind of ready. Like I went to bed super easily, woke up super easily. Um, this is maybe TMI, but I got my coach with like he's a very like uptight British dude, and I got him with a crazy D's nuts joke. And, like, I I had been saving that one, like, for a while, and I was like, I bet I can get him with this one," because, I had been taunting him that have, like, a career ender D's nuts joke, to catch him, like, saying something and you say whatever D's nuts, and,
Yeah.
I was very happy to use that the final day before the Olympics. Um and then, like, I was at that point just, like, very, very calm, and I had just been like, I'm really proud of myself for the work I put in and, like, the input and all these
Mhm.
lessons I've learned and all these times I've improved, but at the end of the day, I really did wanna win. So, I got out, it was a bracket of 8, so 3 races. I won my first, and then I was like, "Alright, now I'm competing to go for an Olympic medal, right? If I win this race, I'll win a silver or gold medal, I'll
Right.
advance to the finals." And I was raced up against like I was just saying, there's two other athletes that were kind of my same level. One was Rodrigue and the other was Peng Wu from China, and he had actually beat me the last 3 times I had
Wow.
competed, like in races. Like I had won the 2 other events I went to, and then he had beat me the last 3 times. I had an undefeated streak against everyone except him for a long time. I was like, I'm ready for this one. Came out there and just missed one singular hold. I lost by like a tiny bit. I lost by like zero
Yeah.
point zero 0.06 seconds. Um, and I was like, the emotions of that is just something I don't think anyone would ever be prepared for. Like I just lost the most important race of my life. Like it's only going to
Yeah.
be every 4 years. Like so many implications of like the doors open up being like an Olympic champion versus just like an Olympic medalist or getting fourth at a game like that. So I mean, I had no time because then the bronze medal match was in 5 minutes. So I had
Oh,
to
wow.
just sort of say like, I just lost the most important race of my life, but now this is actually the most important race of my life to like at this point is trying to win a medal versus getting fourth. So I came out to the fourth match and I was also racing a very like legendary athlete. Maybe a little bit past his prime, but definitely arguably the greatest speed climber of all time, Reza Alipour from Iran. And I I mean, we got up and I was just kinda like, I can't think about all the there's so many things going on right now, but I just can't think about them. I just, do what I do. So I came out, I was just like, I think if this goes well, like, I'll get another world record. And I did. I lowered it to 4.74. And what's actually really funny is in the gold medal match, Rodrigue also ran 4.75, so I got to keep the world record, as sort of a consolation, but it did kinda hurt because like, man, I would've if I did win my semifinal race, I would've also won the finals, which
Yeah.
is just kinda tough. But I kind of just like at that point was like I was really ready. For it to be all over. Like it was so much stress and so much work. Like it's almost like graduation. Where you're like you had put so much work in something like exam week where you're just like, man, I imagine that times like everything I just told you where this was the goal, or you wanted to go to the Olympics, you wanted to do all these things, like it takes so much mental effort and to just stay focused on that over and over. And it's a really nice feeling when it's all over. Like, man, I can take a step back and figure out
Right.
sort of recoup.
Well, is there
Um
is there a crash after? Because, like, when I think about you have such a huge goal and you dedicate everything to this. 4 years of your life, you're prepping for this, and then you have 1 minute to either do it or you fail. And you didn't fail, maybe not to your standard, but, like, you medaled. But what happens when it's over? Like, are you just down bad for a certain amount of time? 'Cause you're like, "What do I do?"
okay, like I think I had talked extensively with people who had been to the Olympics about this, and I really I really am grateful for their advice. Is the philosophy that I approach sport with, especially a sport like climbing or speed climbing specifically, is kind of like golf or like maybe like Formula One a little bit, where the best of the best have like a 50, like maybe a 40, 30% win rate. Maybe like when you're hitting a baseball, like things like that, where like a really low win rate relative to like 100% is really good, right? So I never think like, oh, I'm gonna win every single thing I ever get on because it's just like no one's at that standard. And I was like, even if I was the fastest, like I'm not gonna be guaranteed to win a gold medal, regardless of like all that. So I removed that as a point of stress of saying like, I think I could have done more to win. I mean, at least in hindsight, I think obviously I made some mistakes like in my training, like that I've learned from now. But like I think as far as the effort goes, like discipline was not the issue. Like I had really been proud of myself for that, and I've been proud of myself
Yeah.
for the things I've solved and the people I've met and the person that I like the way I conducted myself. Like there's a lot of wins in there, and like I think I didn't make this up. I got this from someone else, so don't quote me. But I was like valuing input. Like it's almost like an art process, and then at the end of the day, it's judged by someone else
Right.
because you can't control what your competitors do. And I was like, I mean, the two athletes that were ahead of me were also like my same tier for sure. Like I was not like again, I held the world record by 0.01 seconds. Like I wasn't like super massively a favorite. At least like to the point in which like I've improved since then. And I'm kind of there now. But like going into the Olympics, I was 18 years old. Like I wasn't insanely above everyone else.
Yeah.
Um, and as far as like the crash goes, like if I'm being so real, like for someone who plays a small sport, the Olympics is like doing hard drugs. Like all the dopamine and all the like attention and like financial implications and everything like that. Like it hits you really hard. Like in terms
Okay.
of, I'm a person like before the Olympics, I was like trying to get my sport out the best way I can. Like I was making videos explaining it and doing all this stuff. And like imagine you work really hard. I'm like, man, I hit 10,000 followers. And then mid Olympics, I check. I'm like, oh, I got to 50,000 followers in 1 day. Like my highest viewed reel is like a complete shit post, like that I made during the Olympics. Like what? Um, and I just like that's a weird feeling for sure. And like having everyone care about this one little event for you, like it's really odd. And like having again, like the things I was saying about for Pan Am's with everyone saying, oh my God, I hope you go to the Olympics. Like every single person you ever know in life is texting you. And
I
like I
bet.
just again the day before turned on my phone, was playing Plants vs Zombies. Like
Yeah.
really easy game, mundane task where you feel kind of good about yourself, even though it's not very hard. Uh, like it's legitimate. Like it sounds kind of dumb, but like it's a coping mechanism. Like it's a way to manage that unbelievable amount of stress for sure.
And so you got the bronze medal. How much do you get paid for a medal in the Olympics?
So different countries give different amounts for medal bonuses or to go to the Olympics or whatever. The US, I think, gives like 37 for gold, like 22 for silver, and like 15 for bronze. So I got $15,000. It was actually tax free. Like they have a special
Look at that.
exemption for that, so I didn't have to pay taxes on it, which was kind of nice. Um, and yeah, that was kind of cool. Um, definitely did not pay. If I were to take just that income, I was making definitely below minimum wage for all the training I'd put in. But like to an extent, like I mean, I don't make nearly as much money as a lot of people in other sports, but I'm still extraordinarily privileged to have like to be able to travel around the world and get that
Oh
paid
yeah.
for and to do this and have this be my job. Um, even if it does entail some other things, like I think I like the content creation I do to a level and like the media training I've gone through to be a person that can be presentable for brands like and from
Yeah.
an endorsement perspective like there's a lot of other work besides just being a good athlete which I mean in a lot of sports isn't the case like you can be a basketball player and make $7 million just by being a good 3-and-D wing but like for climbing you have to put in a lot of work to make more money but I mean I'm not a stranger to hard work in that way like I like it.
And so, like, coming into you said LA Olympics when? It's 2028?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you did Paris at the age of, 19, 8 years old
I was 18,
18,
yeah.
19 years old. You were 18 years old at Paris. So, first of all, that's insane. But, like, you've already experienced what the Olympic Games are like, and you've learned stuff along the journey that you would have no clue what you were getting into. So, going into 2028 in LA, what is the number one thing that you learned from the Paris Olympics that you think is gonna set you up for success in LA?
I think what I previously touched on about valuing input, where like you're infinitely gonna stress yourself out. And stress is not good in a lot of ways, and it's good in a lot of ways, but like you're infinitely gonna unnecessarily stress yourself out when you try to achieve like try to tie yourself to results in the way of like saying like I'm never going to be happy unless I win an Olympics. Like the way I see it is like if I do everything I've done and I continue to put the work in I've done, like and I compete at 3 more Olympics, I think I will have a very, very good chance of living the rest of my life as an Olympic champion. Like I think I will win at least a one if I go to the next three. Um, but like just valuing that and then like finding love in the process. Like I mean, it's such a cliche, but like the person who likes walking will walk further than the person that doesn't. Like it's really like don't have like being super hard on yourself and like torturing yourself as a mechanism to keep going because it's just not sustainable. Like it's just not like I see a lot of people do it where they're just like, even if they're like especially if you're at like the mid level and you're just like, man, I want to keep going, I want to keep going, I'm very frustrated, and you're just like beating yourself up every single day. Like you just kind of got to take a step back and realize, like, okay, if I make a objectively optimal strength and conditioning plan, and I'm putting in the best effort I can to recover, and I'm giving every session, like when I'm on the wall, everything I've got, and I'm, being coachable, and I'm finding the right people to surround myself with, like you're doing an amazing job with just
Right.
that. And if you're executing on that, like you're actually like, again, I said discipline is not the issue, right? If you're slacking off and doing whatever, like, you know, that's another thing that's an easy fix. But like if you're really, like, putting in the effort, like, you can be really proud of yourself that you're, like, a top 0.1% human for doing that. Like, most people don't.
Well, I think that's a tough part because, like, when I think of myself, but especially when I think of Olympic athletes, it's like when you are in that 0.01% of people, like, enough is never enough, and you constantly, constantly strive, like, you're achievement oriented. Like I'm achievement oriented guy. So that's whether that's a number with followers, it's a number with people who listen to this podcast, it's a dollar amount in the bank account, it's merit valued in some number form. Like that's what achievement people are. And so if you can't get that ultimate achievement thing, like for some people, it literally like, it's just gonna ruin your life and you're never be able to get that. But it's a
Yeah.
mature mindset that you have.
You definitely gotta start, like it's like the moving the goalpost kind of mentality. Um, and I think, like, I've gotten so extraordinarily lucky. Like I almost akin it to like like winning the lottery, like it with the way that I have my sport, and like I can be the best in the world at something, and I can be really passionate about it, and I can enjoy every day being a part of it. And so like that also is just like it's such a tremendous point of value for me, and I can make an impact on a lot of people through that, and I can do so many other things that aren't just winning competitions. And I mean, obviously, it's like again, like the competitive drive is so there, but it's also like y- in 20 years you're going to look back at like how you thought about it, right? And you're not going to care as much about what if. And once you remove like again once you if you get in the mentality of like I'm proud of myself for the work I've put in before one of those big exam days or big competitions, it really does help the stress. Like it really does.
And I've got two more, and these are more fun questions about the Olympics before we go into like mindset and like some of your meal prep, fitness, stuff like that. But what's the craziest thing that you saw at the Olympic Village?
Craziest thing I saw in the village. I think at the opening ceremony, like, I got to interact with, like, some of the NBA players, and, like, I've been a basketball fan my entire life. Like, I'm a big San Antonio Spurs fan, but I got to meet, Anthony Edwards, who was on the team, he plays for the Timberwolves, but I got to meet him, and I was like, "Hey, can I get a photo?" And I was next to him and Kevin Durant, right? And he's like, "Oh, you don't want one with him?" And I was like, "Oh, man, yeah, I was just wanting one with Ant." And Kevin Durant was like, "I'll take the photo for you." And I was like, "What the" like, I'm getting a photo taken by Kevin Durant.
That's wild, bro.
And I don't know if you're too familiar with Anthony Edwards' personality, but he's a very, like, confident, like, kinda person, and I asked him, was like, "Alright, game g gold medal match with France, Rudy Gobert," who's his teammate, standing under the basket, you throwing it down? He just goes, "Hell yeah!" And I'm like, this is so like, this is, like to be there, like, because 'cause they're in the playoffs, and I'm, like, watching on social media, like, the his quotes and press conferences, and, like, I get to say that, like, in person with him is just, like, really funny.
Well, bro, I saw the Anthony Edwards and Obama clip. Like,
Yeah,
dude's
like,
giving
it's like
former president shit, like genuinely giving shit to his face, and he's just unfazed. Like he doesn't care. That guy's a gangster, bro. He's
yeah,
an
dude.
absolute gangster.
Yeah, and also, like, you just meet so many people, like, when you're such a high performer, like, you definitely can get a bit jaded. Like I think a lot of your listeners to podcasts can kind of relate of like when you're so focused on a goal, like you honestly become so weird in a lot of people's eyes. Like, why don't you have balance? Why don't you do that? And you feel so validated at the Olympics, like when you get to meet people who no one gets to the Olympics by not being weird in a way. Like no one gets there with just balance and still hanging out and all that stuff. Like you have to be so dedicated, and you feel honestly so validated to meet other people that are in the same boat as you. And like I've honestly met some good. I've made some good friendships with that guys.
What do you say to the people that come at you? Because and like I'm nowhere near your level of dedication towards like to be an Olympic, it's crazy. But like I still get this stuff sometimes too, and it could come from my own family or as friends, and they're just in your ear. And at some point, like it gets in your head, and like, oh, maybe like I am weird doing this. Like, why don't I just be a little bit more balanced and do X, Y, Z? So like, how do you deal with that?
As a so if I can kind of answer like what advice I'd give someone else and advice I would do myself, just because like you have a better understanding. Like when you're so dedicated for so long, like it becomes a different process. Like honestly, I would not tell someone who's like a 14-year-old prodigy to be as dedicated as I am to something, just because you would definitely burn out, right? Go like, enjoy your life for a little while and let it ramp up. As you get those validations of as you start getting those either the wins or the losses can also motivate you more. Embrace that and start getting more dedicated. Like you have discipline as a tool and you have motivation as a tool, and you either get motivated by winning or losing. It's like when I say I did horrible at a competition, I don't want to feel this feeling again. You get that's the level of motivation. When you say I did great, I'm the best, I want to be more dominant, right? That's also motivation. And you have to balance that with the discipline of just like I'm a really hard worker, because like willpower is sort of a limited resource where like if I had if I wasn't competing, like, I don't think I could work as hard as I am, like I do. Like, if I didn't have like, if this wasn't my job, like, I wasn't making money from it or, like, wanted to make money from it, then I definitely wouldn't work as hard. Like, it's just there's other parts of it, like, if I wasn't in the Olympics, like, if I didn't get to enjoy that, right? Again, like, you're not gonna work as hard. Like, you just can't. Like, you just have to be way crazier to actually get there. And there's some people that are just, like, psychotically dedicated to something. Like, people that, like, play video games all day, like, I low-key have respect for them because it's like, you're so dedicated. You put in, like, 10,000 hours to this random game for no reason. Like, you could have, like, a complete whatever, like, I don't know, like and so, like, to a level, you can find that, but, like, I tell people just, like, as that motivation comes along, like, really enjoy it, but always enjoy the process. Always value your input, like, that's something that I think a lot of people can really benefit from.
And I think one more myth before we move on from the Olympics that everybody's curious about is and it goes viral on TikTok every single year the Olympics come around, and everybody just says that every Olympian, like, they're just horny and everybody hooks up. And you being in Olympic Village, is that true?
So, honestly, I can't really attest to that, partially because I just got no play. Um, I think to an extent it is, and I think to an extent it isn't. Like, I definitely think, like, you're always in this bubble with the way it was, like, you live in this bubble constantly, you don't really go out and do regular stuff, but, I mean, there's also, like, a lot of barriers to actually do that, like, it's easy to interact with people, but I don't know, like again, maybe I just have no game, but, like, I was interacting with a lot of people, and it didn't really seem like that, like, it was a super big thing. They did give out a lot of condoms, they were, like, pretty cool condoms, like, they had, like, a little graphic on them. But,
Olympic
like,
rap.
I think it's a bit I would be a bit overblown, but I
Yeah,
do think it is somewhat a thing,
yeah,
but I couldn't really tell you. At some games, like the Tokyo Games, it for sure wasn't, because they had a lot stricter rules about, like, who could go into rooms because of COVID, so that one
right.
definitely wasn't. But, like, they in theory do still have those rules, like and you're also in a double, so, like, I
I
like
didn't think of that.
so, like, I'm not gonna be to, like, tell my friend, like, "Hey, can you go do laundry? Can you go to, like, leave the city for a little while?" Like, I had that as a joke, like, one of my friends who wasn't staying with me, but I was like, "Hey, Sam, like, if you're out, like, just I'll give you text and, like, you have a code word, like,
Yeah,
just leave the room. Like, I got you, dog. I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you. Just let me know. Let me know. Let me know." So, like, maybe, but there is, like, a lot of barriers to doing it. And, like, for me personally, also, like, I wasn't, like so we were there for the opening ceremony. we went to Barcelona for like 5 days. Um, then trained a bit, trained a bit, trained a bit. And no way I'm going out of my way to go try and hook up with someone like from
Right.
scratch the 2 days before the most stressful competition of my life. Um, and then after at least you win a medal, maybe it's like you didn't, but like if you win a medal, you have probably a day and a half of just full on media. And then
Yep.
there was two things in Paris I really wanted to do. My entire life I've been vying for a Red Bull sponsorship, so I went to go meet with their people, and then I went
Ooh.
to this really famous chess bar in Paris, and went and hang out with some people there. So maybe I'm just on the grind. I was like, I'm trying to I'm trying to get my bread up,
It,
and so maybe
yeah.
during that day I could have put some effort in, but whatever. So then one funny story that I do have for you is there was this Italian girl that I had met. I stayed in Milan in March of 24, so I was there for a couple weeks, and I met this girl. She was super nice. She spoke fluent English, and she was really like a nice person. And she's like, "Okay, I'll come to Paris, right? And we'll go out after that because we kind of hung out, kind of hit it off. But she left, and then I left, and it was whatever. But she's like, I'll be at the Olympics." I was like, "All right, cool." So the day after the competition, or the day of the competition, technically, the night after, we went and I was like, "We're gonna go out to a bar, or whatever." And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna bring you a muffin," right? And I say this is the most romantic thing I've ever done because so like there's the U.S. building and then the main dining hall, which is like 400 meters away, like really close. And then there was another dining hall like 2 miles away. So I go to the main dining hall and there's no muffins. I was like, I promised this girl a muffin. I'm not gonna fold here. So I walked 2 full miles, like a full maybe it was like a 3 mile round trip to go to the other dining hall to go get this girl a muffin. And I like make the joke it's like the most romantic effort I've ever put in.
Man, that's romance right there. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
need flowers,
She
bro. You
she
just
she
want
appreciated it. She appreciated it. So
do so after winning like a medal, or after the games are over, do the do Olympians like go out at all? Like, do they just mob a Paris bar downtown and it's just like a free for all, or does that not happen?
I think it really, really depends. Like I was in the mentality of like I I felt very like I don't even know how to describe the emotion, but very like this is so beautiful and poetic after all this work you put in. Like, but I think I'm just like a deeper human being, if that makes sense. Like in terms of things I enjoy. So like I did go out like that day after the competition with her. I did then so that was the day of the competition. Then it was a full media day from like 9 a.m. to like 7 p.m. We were out doing media stuff, like getting photos taken, interviews, stuff like that, like commercial connections, all that type of stuff. Like they really give their medalists the best effort to like capitalize on that. And when the next games rolls around, like you can make a lot more money and have better connections for that. So like I really put a lot of effort into that. Um, but after that day, which I don't know if I should say this publicly, but whatever. I wanted to you do get a bottle of Moet. Like it was like a big bottle of like the fancy
What?
champagne. Like
Oh,
like yeah.
champion.
The LVMH, like the brand, Louis Vuitton, Moet and Hennessy. Like it's a big bottle of champagne they give to all the medalists.
Yeah,
And I had this playlist I made, and it was I wanted to listen to this playlist. I just called it "Et après," so, like, after the Olympics, and afterward. A lot of cool songs that, like, kinda I was talking about earlier in the podcast, the music, that I wanted to listen to. So, put that on and just drank this whole bottle of champagne, and
that's
it
lit.
hits you really hard when you just drink over and over a bunch of champagne. Like, it hits you really quick, and I was just like I enjoyed the first 20 minutes. I was like, "Man, this is not for me." Like, this is like, again, like, 'cause also, like, I didn't drink, like, almost at all, like, before that. Like, as a
Oh
high
my god.
schooler, I'm staying away from it. I'm trying to be focused, and then, like, I was almost only 18, so I'm barely legal in Europe.
Yeah,
Uh, and I had this champagne. It's like, "My god, I am drunk."
dude.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, first of all, champagne and like prosecco. I went on a prosecco cruise, unlimited, bro. That
it
stuff
hits you.
just.
It hits you.
Oh,
I've even yeah, so even funnier story, that same day, there was some foreshadowing. So Grant Holloway, he's a 110 meter hurdler gold medalist, really cool dude. And they give us champagne that morning, right? Which I want an American TV show, and they give me champagne when I'm 18 years old, and they're like, cheers, cheers, cheers. I'm like, not drinking it. I'm not 21. But anyway, he was like, guys, I don't fuck with the bubbles. You get the liquor, and you get it. It hits you quicker. Don't fuck with the bubbles. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this, but you can just leave it out.
that-
But
that's lit.
He was, "Don't fuck with bubbles." And I was like, "There's no reason I shouldn't do that." I mean, again, I didn't have very much experience with carbonated alcohol, and so that
Yeah.
night I did indeed fuck with the bubbles, and he was very right. So in the future, I'll hopefully find some up and coming bronze medalists, and when I'm the gold medalist in that position, and saying, "Hey man, I'm gonna be real with you. You're gonna get a bottle of
Don't
champagne.
don't fuck with the bubbles.
Don't
That's
do it.
hilarious.
Don't do it."
That's actually an all-time quote. Like, the next time my friend says some stupid thing, like, "Let's get prosecco." I hate prosecco or some champagne. I'm just gonna say it.
Don't
"Don't
fuck
fuck
with the
with the bubbles."
bubbles.
That's lit.
Yeah. Um, and so yeah, like I spent that night listening to my playlist and fucking with the bubbles, and I did get really drunk personally, but I wasn't like out partying
Yeah,
after that. And then there was a day afterward, and also like after that, I was so sleep deprived because I did that, like slept like 3 hours because then the other round for the other climbing was that day, and I was like, okay, I have
yeah.
to go watch this. So I had like no sleep, and then watched that day, and then that was the day of the closing ceremony. So I had basically
Wow.
the only thing was like, I wanted to go play chess with a bunch of people, which was really nice because it was a cool connection. So I posted on my like Instagram reels, and it was funny because it got like 1 million views, and I wasn't used to that at all. But like, I posted just myself saying like, hey, does anyone want to play chess at the Olympic Village? Because I'm like a mediocre chess player, like it's kind of a hobby. And it went really viral, right? So a lot of like the chess personalities were like, "Oh my god, what's the playing like in the Olympics?" Like all this. And so
Really?
chess.com, like the biggest like platform for playing chess, they like messaged me, like followed me on Instagram, like, "Oh, that's dope." Um, and I'm actually like we set up a meeting, like I've been in contact with them. I'm gonna teach their founders how to rock climb, which is gonna be super dope.
No way.
Yeah.
Are you gonna get a sponsor are you guys, like, working out sponsorship, or are you just connecting with their founders?
Honestly, I've been checking with their founders for a while because, like, also their founder, like Eric Alabres, like he's an insanely cool dude. Like he's grown a company from nothing to like $500 million valuation with zero VC funding, like at all, which is like
Oh, wow, I didn't know
in the
that.
span of like 11 years or something like that, maybe a little bit more than that. But like I mean, he's a really cool dude in the entrepreneurship shape. He's my coolest LinkedIn connection now. So,
Oh, I bet. That
maybe
that's
down the
that's
line,
a
yeah,
chess platform with the green background, like,
yeah,
right?
yeah, just like
I see kid oh my god, everybody plays that.
yeah.
Literally everybody plays that.
No, they've done an extraordinarily good job at, like, lobbying for the sport of chess. Like, they've done like, he's done some podcasts I've listened to, like, they've done an insanely good job at, like, growing chess, like, strategically, like, making these partnerships and, like, when things come out, like, the Queen's Gambit Netflix show, like, they had a whole
Yeah.
plan of, like, how we're gonna retain these people playing chess, like, when it grows.
What about biohacking? Because when you really start to take yourself seriously, like, I gotta think, I mean, training, nutrition, sleep, all this other stuff. Let's start off with, like, let's start off with nutrition. Are you ever able to eat out or have cheat days when you start seriously training for the games?
Absolutely, like,
Okay.
a singular bad meal, like, or less nutritious meal is not really gonna hurt me that much. Like, I think you after you eat healthy for a while, you really wire your brain so that, like, food that's, like, cheaply processed doesn't taste as good. Like,
Hmm,
food with a ton of seed oils or, like, shelf, like, all these preservatives, they just don't taste as good as, like, good food. So, like, I I would much rather have food I cook at home than, like, fast food. But, like, just logistically, like, you have to. Like, when you travel, like, and you end a competition at 11 p.m., like, you can go to McDonald's. Like, it's, like, the only option.
there you go.
Like, yeah, like, half the time, like, you're gonna need to do that at some point, and I try to do, like, the 90, some people say 80/20, I say 90/10 of,
Okay.
like, auto-regulation of training, like, I say that with meals as well, like, if you can eat 90% of meals, which is, like, over almost 1,000 meals total, like, if it's 365 days, 30 days, you can eat whatever, and usually the reason is actually not that I want to, the reason is there's some sort of logistical impairment of I have
Hmm,
to eat, not to the standard I'd want to, on that days, but it's really not a big deal, like,
okay.
again, you can practice like, "Oh, okay, I've put in all the effort I can," and I'm not gonna be,
Yeah.
like being super high maintenance and stressing yourself out is also, like, kinda bad, so you can have stuff, like, just when it's convenient as well.
What about supplements?
Yeah, so I take a pretty beefy supplements, like, stack every day, like, and I debate, like, fully discussing it because I get a lot of people saying, like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna take your supplements, and I'm gonna be like you." And like, man, I really like it's maybe like a couple like all the biohacking stuff I do, the diminishing returns are insane. Like the money I spend trying to, get to my actual optimal is like such diminishing returns. So in like if I the difference you could train if like you're like a mid-level climber by just learning how to train better and like sleeping better and things like that, you'd get so much more than if you copied my supplement stack and you started doing like red light or hyperbaric therapy. Like it's really not gonna help you that much. Like it'll help you like go from if you're again, like I was saying, like I held the world record by 0.01 seconds, right? That matters in that situation for sure. Right.
Right.
But when you're trying to you have other things that are much bigger to work on that first, please. Like, don't go spend a bunch of your money or your parents' money on something that you don't really need.
What does red light therapy do?
Red light therapy is supposed to, like, sort of charge up your mitochondria, so, like, in your cells, you have the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and so near
Yeah.
infrared light can get in and sort of charge that up, if that makes sense. Like, it can activate it and help recovery in a lot of ways.
Oh, so it's just for, like, speeding up muscle recovery, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, speeding up muscle recovery only really helps when you're putting stress on the muscles.
Right. And so something I'm really curious about is sleep. Like, how particular are you about your sleep, and what's the optimal amount of hours? And is there really that big of a difference if you don't get the perfect sleep in the world?
So I have always been my entire life like a pretty not good sleeper. Like I, especially like falling asleep, I've always been very bad at it. But yes, sleep is like a massively performance enhancing drug. Like there's a lot of studies that show like sleep is insanely good for you for athletic performance and cognitive health and longevity, all that kind of stuff. Sleep is very, very important. So I have a pretty good setup. Like I've invested a lot. I have a very nice bed. I have a good setup, blackout curtains. We have sleep mask, earplugs, everything I can do, and I allocate about 10 hours of my day of time in bed. So giving, say, I have an hour of latency to fall asleep and an hour of wake time within my sleep. And so again, it's a massive time investment, more than money, but it definitely does pay off.
So you don't sleep for 10 hours a day, but you're in bed for 10
Probably
hours
sleeping
a day.
about 8, 8.5 between that. Yeah.
So when you get into bed, are you someone who says, "As soon as I get into bed, I'm not touching my phone"?
So I turn on my phone about an hour before I actually get in bed.
Really?
um, Most times, yeah. Obviously, there's some exceptions. Like if I'm traveling, like I'll use my phone as an alarm. Like I usually have another external alarm clock in my house, but I don't want to travel with it, so I'll leave my phone in my hotel room sometimes. But I try not to be on it. Um, you're reading or something, or you're like doing something else. Cleaning up the kitchen, I also like to do. So it's just like
Yeah.
clean in the morning. I run my dishwasher, all that stuff.
What's the hour so, like, when that alarm goes off, what is that hour that you're still in bed at the start? Like, in the morning?
So I turned off my phone at okay, so like at 10 p.m. Mountain Time. I have the first 20 minutes is the things I have to do. Half the time it's I have to extend my Duolingo streak because I forget to do it. So usually it's that. Then at 10:20 I put my phone away. Then the next 20 minutes I'll journal. I have a little journal that I read. I have two actually. One is like purely for training, and one is just kind of personal. Like there's a lot of overlap, but I usually use the personal one at night, just like where okay, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I want, my goals, reminders, etc., etc. And then take a shower, hygiene, skincare, all that. Get in bed. Usually try to be in bed by 11, and then my alarm is set to like 8:30. So technically 9.5 hours of sleep, but I count that like 10, 20 cutoffs. It's like whatever, almost 10 hours, basically. But yeah, my phone's away. I have red lights that I have to not super overwhelm my eyes with blue light.
And I saw that you take collagen. So I had a brand that sent me collagen, and I don't know what collagen is. All I know is that I had the chocolate flavored one, so it tasted good, so I drink it all the time. But, like, what are the benefits of collagen?
So collagen is typically derived from bovine and chickens. It can also be from marine or fish, but it's basically like it's gonna gross you out. Like it's like bone broth. Like it's like skin can almost help you. And it can help your, like, hair, skin, and nails if you take it just normally, but it's also very good for training soft tissues. So for climbing, that's really important is you have to maintain your soft tissues. Like, you can recover your biceps a lot more easy than you can recover a tendon in your finger, and you're stressing your tendons a lot when you climb. So I take collagen before every session, and then every morning when I rest as well, just for hair, skin, and nails, because I gotta have good hair. And also your nails will crack, if you slam them against the wall over and over. But that's what it's for. So like if you take it before training, it gets in your blood essentially. Like this is the simplest way to explain it. Like it gets in your blood and you can kind of direct it towards your tendons. Um, and that can help them adapt and you can get stronger fingers.
What biohacking do you have for hands and feet that you do, minus the collagen?
So hands and feet. Hands, honestly, just remember, like, your extremities, your hands and your feet are, like, the most fragile part of a climber's self, so making sure like, I think some of the biggest injuries are either, tendinitis in your hands, pulley injuries, or, like, turf toe, if you know what that is, where you take your back toe, and if you
Yeah,
overextend it, then you can, like, hurt your muscles in your feet, especially if it's untreated, so if I get like, almost every climber deals with it, and if it gets starts to get a little bit worse, I just tape the foot. Um, so figuring out that, is definitely a big part of it. Then I do, like, some mobility routines for both, like, wrist mobility, you lay on the ground and you, like, move your wrists it's weird to do, but, like, move your wrists around, make sure you're doing it a little band exercise like this with your wrist, to make sure it's has good range of motion because it's really important for whenever you're climbing you're speed climbing at least, you're doing this motion. You're following through
right.
essentially. So, they're important parts of it, important as any other muscle for sure.
And, so I've got and you don't have to answer this question, but I do wanna get an Olympian's opinion on this. So, I think one of the things that went crazy in the media was when and she was our commencement speaker, Simone Biles spoke at our commencement. It was a surreal experience, very, very cool. But she got a lot of backlash for stepping out, and people thought it was soft, whatever they wanna say. Like, you as an Olympian, you probably understand better than other people. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is, like, the average person really has no clue what it's like to be at that level, and, like,
Yeah,
this, like they even say, like, the average high performer, like, if you're an entrepreneur or you're something else, like, can kind of understand, but, like, what I say is, like, mental health is a big thing, right? When I was talking about this whole process I built around, like, valuing input and all that, like, it's very, very fragile, and it's very, very normal to have a lot of the feelings, like, I think in gymnastics, like, there's also a safety aspect to it of, like, having, like, the twisties, I think it's called, like, it's a bit different.
yeah, it is. Yep,
But, like, I always tell people, like, taking care of yourself is the best thing you can do, like, training-wise. When you're feeling like that or you feel some sort of mental health issue, like, taking care of yourself is the best training you could possibly do. And that a lot of people are not very receptive to that, and I've applied it to myself in some situations, like, I'm say, "Oh, I'm not gonna do this competition or this block is too hard, like, it's too much." And that's reasonable to do, right? Like, and you have to just have pride in yourself, like, almost, and have the confidence of, like, "Okay, I think this is best for me. I'm gonna make that decision." And people inherently, it's gonna be hard to understand.
right. I
Um,
appreciate the
yeah.
response. And, the last question I have, this conversation has gone by very fast, it's been amazing, but what's next for you? What's in store?
So in about a week, yeah, the July 2nd, I'm gonna head off to Krakow, Poland. I have a World Cup event there, and then a week later, I have Chamonix Mont Blanc, France. Gonna be awesome. 2 World Cups. Then I have what's called the World Games, which is essentially a test Olympics. So they're testing
Mhm.
out 2 more medal events for speed climbing. One is a relay and one is a 4-lane event. So imagine we have a 2-lane event if there's 4 and you race, and there's a bit of a different, format, and then the relay is just a relay. You get to race with your teammate, which can be awesome. Um, so yeah, I have that going into that's in August, and then I have a world championship in October. It does or in September, sorry. In September, it doesn't really have Olympic implications like the last one did, but since they're
Yeah,
every 2 years, like the world champion title is definitely a bigger thing for me. Like it'd be cool to have for sure. So finishing out this year's series title, it's a bit complicated for climbing. I've always been an advocate that they should not have a world championship and have it be like the finale of the World Series, like the World Cup
yeah,
series, because you could just say like you're world climbing champion if you are the highest point placer of all those, because like whatever. But I'm basically tied for first place for the World Cup series now. I had a gold, a bronze, and a fourth place, and then another athlete had also a gold, a bronze. He had a gold and 2 bronzes, so he's slightly ahead of me.
okay,
But from a points perspective, like if I win 2, like if I win, like it'll be pretty much decided by the next 2 events. Like it's very, very close. So it's basically um, starting over. So that'll be really cool. It'll be a fun battle.
alrighty. And then hopefully, we get that gold medal at LA, which would be so cool, bro. And it sounds like you're working your ass off for it. So with that being said, that that wraps up the podcast. Sam, thanks so much for coming on the
Absolutely.
show, bro.
Thank you for
It was
having
an
me.
absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Take care, everybody.